Hey, it's September. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and unfortunately, I recently just left a funeral of a friend that committed suicide. So a few days after the funeral, I had a lot on my mind in terms of, how I'm feeling, how I'm coping. So I did what I could, and I decided to write. This wasn't even supposed to be a poem, and it just turned out to be something that I am going to share, and I'm going to share and let you guys understand, just what's been going on these past few years. Grief is real. It's no it's no timetable for it, and we all have different ways of coping. So I choose art. I titled this Under 35. It's actually the first of two writings. Like I said, this was just supposed to be something that explains everything without having to say it again. Under 35. Been to 2 funerals in 2 months. 3 in 9 months. I found out about a friend's suicide on the birthday of another friend who had passed away to suicide. Wasn't even a year that passed away before having to deal with the emotions of how to prepare for the news that causes so much grief. Hearing someone who suffered significant brain damage, hearing that twice in 9 months. God works miracles. I'm not doubting God, but I know it would have taken a miracle for them to survive. When you ask if I'm okay, what do I even say? How do I truly respond? Because I don't know. When you ask what happened, the replay of the events has brought me to tears, made me crumble. When you hear the news and you ask again, imagine how that must feel on this end. When anger takes over and you say, just forgive and move on, realize I've been trying to do that for so long. When you ask if we were close or how I knew the deceased, it feels like you're questioning my grief. It's so hard to reach out when these are the responses that come. I first learned about suicide in high school. When the bus no longer stopped at one house, it was different riding past that house, that front yard. It was just different. It wasn't until grad school when the news hit closer to me. Back when MySpace was still a thing. It was this time of year, the start of the semester, football season. My friend, I was waiting for him to call me back so we can play on our next football game. He committed suicide. I remember I found out a message on MySpace in 2009. When it was time for class, I gave the news to the engineering department at school. I lost my study buddy. I later got news that one of my family members attempted suicide. Life gets heavy. Then my teammate, but more than just a teammate, he attempted suicide. And I picked him up from the hospital, not knowing how to address it. I let his homeboy make sure he was doing all right. He later committed suicide in 2014. That same year, a friend of mine, another teammate, attempted suicide. Depression, grief, hopelessness, lost sight of worth. These things happen, but the awareness pamphlets can't convey the weight of the realness. In 2016, the homeboy I mentioned earlier suffered an injury and passed away. My guy called to cope or talk about anything is gone. In 2017, I get a text about another tragic event and prepared for the devastating news. A month later, my best friend's brother-in-law committed suicide. It's at the point I don't know who to call on the phone anymore. So many of us are suffering silently. People are fighting with depression, anxiety, PTSD, guilt, embarrassment, body image, loneliness, emptiness, and many other things we don't physically see. There are so many of our friends that have thought their life doesn't matter or make much of a difference, and it does. There's so many people that feel they've done everything they could. Sometimes people live for someone else. There's a debate about if people that commit suicide go to heaven. I believe Jesus saves. While minds, hearts, and bodies may not be healed, I believe he saves souls of those that have accepted him. I've had people tell me I'm wrong, that this mindset encourages suicide. No, I do not encourage suicide. I encourage others to love, to see the best in people, to believe that we can be saved through grace, to let Judgment Day fall in the hands of the judge. Be human.